Alright, hey guys, Takairis. I wanted to talk about the approach to learning a character in an efficient way. Basically, I start with the skeleton of the character, and I build the knowledge on top of that baseline knowledge, right? So this is not only going to be a really beneficial strategy for learning a character, but it's also beneficial for matchup knowledge. A really good way to learn matchups in a pretty quick, efficient way is to just play that character for maybe a few hours, watch that character a lot. I know what helped me was playing a little bit of Bob, learning his moves, what his pokes are, and how minus he is on certain things, and then I watched a lot of Ulsan, and that also helped me out a lot. So I just want to talk about just a quick way to get started. We're going to use Josie for a lot of these examples, so bear with me, but all these basic ideas will transfer over pretty well. So, first of all, let's start. We're going to build a game plan. Now, this, for new Tekken players, can seem really, really hard. Movesets exceed over, 300 moves sometimes, so it can be really scary for people that are new to Tekken, especially. So, a good way I like to start, what is your first goal? Your first goal is finding your playstyle. What is your character good at? What is the character you want to learn good at? And this really, you want to start by watching the character, or maybe you already know. So, if you see someone like Hwarong, you'll probably notice he's pretty fast. He's real sticky. He wants to stay up close. He's going to pressure you. A lot of mix-ups, a lot of different things that are hard to see, hard to read on him. He's real fast, and he likes to mislead you on certain hits. And he's kind of hard to tell when he's super minus. He doesn't stagger a whole lot. It's, straight through and then I'm back in normal stance. That can be really scary for a lot of players. And that's why that style works so well. Even really good players, people like K-Wisp, people like Speed Kicks, that style works for them. They're toning it down a little bit. They're using different moves a lot of times, so they're using, they know the frame data really well. So not necessarily the scrub killer Hwarong, but it's similar enough. The baseline is there. But with someone like Brian, maybe, you'll see a little slower. He wants to kind of poke at you. He wants to tear at you a little bit. But nothing too big. He's not going to overwork it. He's going to stay at that mid-range, poke at you, and when he sees you make a big mistakes, something that's really minus, or maybe you make a big whiff, then he's going to launch you, and then he's going to take you to wall. And that's where he becomes a lot more threatening, a lot more mix-up heavy. He's going to be a lot scarier there. He gets a lot of damage off of the smallest duck. If you duck and he hits that back four, it's a jet upper at the wall. That means a lot of your health bar, so it's gonna be really tough to play against. So knowing what your character is good at and how you want to go about a match with them is gonna be your first step to learning them. So finding the range and what I would call the striking density. How many shots are you throwing in the neutral? Are you throwing a lot? Are you trying to swarm them? Or are you going to throw a few and then back up? You're focused more on movement. What range do you exceed at? Brian is a mid-ranged character. He likes to stay kind of just a bit back, just enough to keep out of that jab, essentially. Maybe a few feet outside of that jab range for most characters. So then after that, I like to start with pokes, combo starters, and punishment. Not necessarily in that order. I'd probably start with punishment first. So generally what you want to learn for punishment is from about 10 frames to 16 frames. So for Josie, 10 frame, 1, 2, 2. Solid jab string. It's minus 13 on block, but it is a natural combo, so you don't really have to worry about that as long as you know what the punish is. So let's set that. Oh, sorry. Alright. 1, 2, 2, right? Solid, plus 9, so you're not ending your turn at all. You have a lot more pressure to do after that, so that's a pretty good way. And if you want more damage, you can go 1, 4, 3, but it's only plus 1. So generally, this is the best 10 frame punishment tool for her. After that, you get back 1, 1, 11 frames. So, and some characters won't have some of these. Some characters don't have an 11 frame, or they don't have a 12 frame, or they don't have this or that. Don't worry about that. If they don't have it, then just use what you can and try to use it effectively. But for 11 frame, back 1, 1, plus 16. It does push back, so you don't get guaranteed stuff like that. But you get a pretty good, you get a sizable amount of plus frames off that because it does start that ballerina spin. Next for 12 frame, You want to go 4-2-4. This is really good. It does knock down, and actually, if you're close enough to the wall, it will wall splat. So you'll get a pretty good wall combo. You can take about 64 damage with it, just alone at the wall. So those are really good up to about 12 frames. And then for her 13 frames, she doesn't really have anything at 13 frames. She does have 14 frame, which is this. This is really good. This is actually one of her main pushback punishes. So if there's a move that pushes back, if it's above -14 or at -14, you can do this. And after this, she gets this as a follow-up. So she gets pretty decent damage. And of course, she's not ending her turn at all. So she gets Oki off of that positioning, whatever you want to go for about 15 frames to 16, you know, this. You get the down 4-2. Her down 4-2 is, it looks generic, but it's not necessarily generic. Down 4-2, like Paul's. So Paul's would not duck a crouching opponent. It would lift them, you could float them, which is a lot smaller of a combo, not a lot of damage, but you'll get the same wall carry about. This is a full combo off launch. The problem with it is, if you look, that's -13, so depending on who you're playing, they will get a pretty good punish off of it. So you don't want to throw this out too willy-nilly. You want to have the range out, you know. I normally use it as a whiff punish. I like to back up, you know. I like to, you know, bait a whiff with this and then kind of like that. That's a pretty common strategy for her. And then, you know, after that, of course, you get 28 frames. You don't really, I wouldn't do this as 28 frames. It's more of like have a hard read on the slow load or something, and I can do that. But, you know, don't really worry about all that. But yeah, that's her punishment. And some of those also leak into the combo starter section, like her down 4-2, like her up 4-4, or up 4-3, sorry. Her up 4-4 is also 15 frames, so sometimes that is necessary. But punishment, while standing punishment, right. So she also gets her while standing 4, 11 frames, pretty standard, +5 on hit, pretty good. She does have a very special move, though. So she does have a 13 frame while standing launch, and it looks like this. Now, Kazuya also has it. He can just combo straight off of it. This is the problem with Josie's, or maybe the advantage depending on how good you are at micro-dashing. But after this, you can see it pushes him off that axis. You have to micro-dash to get back on axis, and you do a down 3-4. So some characters will have something like that. It just takes practice. No biggie. But that's a good thing to know, because that makes her really, really dangerous to do those minus lows against any of them, really. So like a character like Fakumlaw, he doesn't have really any lows that are safe enough for me to not launch him. So really, I can blow him up for doing too many lows. I can eliminate that from the game plan. I don't have to worry about it that much if I punish enough of him. So that's a really cool thing to keep in mind. Just to know that, really. You don't necessarily have to practice all that stuff and get great with it yet, but just know it. Keep it in the back of your mind and go, okay, I can punish that. As for pokes go, find your pokes. Pokes are a move in the neutral if you're not in the know, but generally they're used around the neutral, just kind of moving around, and you want you want it to be fast, safe, or plus, any of those, right? You want it to be one of those. If it tracks, even better. If it's a mid, even better, you know. You just want it to cover a lot of options, cover a lot of space, cover, a lot of movement options, and you want it to be. You don't want to take any risks on it. It's a poke. You don't want to worry about that. So, some good pokes she gets is a good approaching poke. Move forward a bit. It is a forward. So this is just a little spin kick. It's pretty cool. It's only -9, and if you land a counter hit, you'll get a pretty cool combo off of it. So you'll get that. And that's her optimal route off that, in case you wanted to know. So that's a really good poke. It's a really good way to approach. She gets that. It tracks. It's a mid, so it covers a lot of options. So that's a really good example of a poke. She gets this. The problem with Josie, a lot of her mids, is they're pretty linear, and when they're not, they're very slow. So like this is 22 frames. It's not too bad though, so can't complain too much. Down forward 1-2, that's pretty good. It is a natural combo. It is mid-high. Tracks somewhat to the right, I believe. +5 on hit, pretty good. It's only -6 on block, which is pretty strong. And one cool use of it is it goes into sweat. So just know your options off of pokes, because it will help you a lot. So off of this, you can get another, follow up with that, while sitting 4. That's really hard to interrupt. Some characters can't. So You know, just doing that, and you can still back up after that and bait a whiff. So, Josie, if you can't tell, her whiff punishment is a very strong asset of hers, and her pokes are strong. So, some other stuff she gets as far as low pokes, she gets this down 4, 15 frames, so it's not seeable. You're not going to react to this. Nobody's going to react to it, unless you're being too predictable. And it is -10, so you can get this, but it's not really going to do much. It's not going to land, right? It's just going to kind of get off me. So it is safe, which is really cool. She gets a crouch dash 3, it's cool, +1 hit, and on counter hit, follow-ups. So that's always really good. And it is only -13, so depending on who you're playing, it won't get launched. Depending on who you're playing, though, so you should really, you know, that's the thing that comes with knowing your frames, is you get to know, you know, what moves to do against certain characters. You know, what moves are going to be especially strong. So those are like some really good just starting pokes. Those will get you started just fine with the character. You know, after that you learn your just a few different of her standard launchers. I would recommend, and I keep saying Josie specifically, but I mean this for any character. This is a strategy that works for any character to learn. I'm just using her for the examples because I understand the character well. So of course her down 4-2. Back 1+2. That's rarely used, but it does have some utility. It has a great wall carry, and it does quite a bit of damage, so just a move to keep in mind. What else? You know, hop kick. It's the same thing as the down 4-2. And she has some different routes for wall carry and stuff. You don't really need to learn all that yet, but like I said, it helps later on if you want to keep learning the character. Combos, of course, that also means wall combos, so learn a couple different wall combos. I recommend one for high wall splat, one for low wall splat, because every stage is different in this game, so learn that. Of course, floor break, balcony break follow-ups, but that can come later. That can come after the fundamentals. I'm not worried about that yet, right? So we want to, like I said, you want to eliminate all this extra stuff for now, and then add it on later. We're building the building blocks of the character, how to play her. So Josie's game plan, pretty simple. I'm just going to run around and I want to play like a wasp, essentially, which is I want to get in your face, sting you a little bit, back up. Or I guess like a, you know, an annoying bug of some sort. But, you know, you want to run around, kind of poke, just make them annoyed enough. Make them annoyed enough to where they become impatient. If they try to launch you and you have baited a whiff successfully, probably using this is a really good whiff baiting tool, especially in the earlier ranks if you're worried about online play. Just do that, back up. They will almost always whiff a down 4-2 at least once, if they have a generic down 4-2 or a different launcher of some sort. They will lose patience with you eventually, and that is where you get all the big damage. So I can kind of take them to wall here, and then I can follow up with whatever I want. So that's really going to help you. Just get familiar with the character's tools, and start off with just a few. You know, don't worry about the super situational stuff like this, or like this, or like this, or like this, or like this. Those are all, you know, that's a game plan that you want to inlay into your base game plan, right? This is going to become annoying once you learn how to use it effectively. And you don't need that yet. You'll need it later. But for now, worry about simple stuff, and then build on that once you feel confident with those tools. After that, I would say Oki. You want to learn Oki. So after you get one of these, you know, big launcher, okay, take them to wall, whatever. Get this nice little wall combo. What do I do after that? So this is where we look at kind of what moves are going to guarantee something at the wall, or are going to make your opponents guess. So the definition of Oki is really hitting your opponent the second they're vulnerable after a knockdown, or on a knockdown in this case, because Tekken does have that. So she has some really good Oki options. So out in the open, on a knockdown, if they don't get up immediately, I get that soccer kick. Now that's guaranteed, but I'm just for the sake of showing you, if they don't get up immediately off a knockdown, I will get this soccer kick. If you do dash forward before you do it, it will track on a roll. So that's a cool thing to keep in mind. You can retrack with this move. Next, if you want to cover a wake-up option, let's say they're getting up with 3. which is pretty common in the lower ranks because a lot of the time that will counter hit and they'll get a combo off of their wake up. Let's say they're doing that. So if I run up, they knock him down, right? He gets up with 3. I can cover that option with this. This is a down 2. So her down 2 is really good. It's actually not too bad in the neutral. It's only -2. It's just a little bit slow, so you gotta kind of set it up a little bit. Make sure you're doing it at the right time. But this move's really good, and this is a good way to cover Oki. This is what I use sometimes. So off of a knockdown, they get up with 3, I can do this. This will either stuff a spring kick, or if they hit 3, like I said, it will give me actually a counter hit. So this is actually a counter hit launcher. I get this. This is our optimal route. Boom, boom, boom. I didn't, land it, but you get the point. That will cover a lot of options, a lot of the wake-up options, except for roll. So if your opponent stops getting up, then you can start employing this move. And that's just in the open. So let's talk about at the wall. Wall Oki is a bit different than normal Oki. Because you're going to do it normally after like a wall combo like this. So for Josie, you can delay that last hit, it'll flip them. You'll have a few more opportunities. She has a really cool 50-50 at the wall. So she'll either get this. This is her full crouch, down, forward, forward. It's pretty quick to activate. You can do it pretty fast. But essentially it's +7 on hit. It's -15 on block. So you have to be kind of careful with it. And she'll also have this. Sorry, not that. She'll have this. This is her While Rising 3. This move, wall splats, and it's only -7. And it's a mid. And it tracks a decent amount. So that move is really cool to catch a duck or a, like an overcommitment to a low block. And if they don't low block ever, then you can really eat at them with this. Since it's +7, you're not ending your turn. So I can go, sometimes I'll go for multiple of these just to kind of get my opponent worried about that. I want to make them scared of that low. So that's a really cool thing. She gets some pretty decent plus frames off certain things, so just know what your plus frames are, even if it's not something that's guaranteed follow-up. Just a few of them are going to help. So like out of her crouch dash, there's a few mix-ups from her crouch dash, but this is a big mid. You don't want to do it too much, but big mid. So on block, that's actually +5. You can either magic for them, and don't do this every time either. Do it whenever you think it's appropriate to do so. But I wouldn't commit to it every time because her options out of it are going to be highs, which is the weak side of that. So there's just a few different variables you really have to keep into account of. Other than that, keep it simple. The less moving parts in your game plan, the better things are going to go for you almost 100% of the time. The less complicated it is for you, the less things you have to think about, the less variables, then it's going to be a lot easier for you. And that's really only at the start, because these are going to get really easy for you after you get familiar with them. And after you're familiar with them, then you can start layering in tech traps and, grab setups or whatever, So that's what I would work with. And that works for any character, really. This whole idea and this strategy to learning a character. This works for anybody. This works for simple characters like Josie, or kind of weird stance characters like Lei or Warren. Of course, there's a little bit more. The only difference for those characters is that the learning your pokes, punishes, and whatnot, that might be a little bit longer because some of those stance moves are going to be mixed in there. You're going to want to do some moves that go into a stance or something, just to mess with them a little bit. But yeah, that's a pretty simple way to look at learning a character. I just wanted to make this video just to kind of show the ideas that I take into account and the kind of method I use when learning a character or a matchup, or learning a character for a matchup, any of those things. So yeah, I just want to show you guys that method to things, and I hope that this wasn't too boring to you. I hope it was informative. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it.